Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the overall political situation in the wake of course, for a while we've seen this talk as far as dialogue is concerned, as the importance of dialogue between all political parties are concerned, whether all political parties actually want to talk to each other. Of course, all stakeholders are involved. We'll be talking about the ramifications of this exchange that we have seen. And whether it will make a difference to the overall political climate, to the overall thawing, so to speak, as far as the opposition and the government is concerned, as far as their relationship is concerned, as far as their overall working environment is concerned, as far as the assemblies are concerned. Of course, we're also looking at Mulana Fazal Rehman, his statements that are coming up as far as protests are concerned, as far as overall economic climate is concerned, and what kind of ramifications this kind of talk, this kind of overall exchange between the government and the opposition has for that kind of a fragile economic climate, and the efforts that are underway from the government to stabilize the situation as far as the economy is concerned. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Aniq Zafar, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Ali Rashid, who is with the PPP. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we also have Senator Zarqa, who is with the PTI. Thank you for joining us. Ji, Aniq Zafar, we have for a while now, we've been hearing this talk about there being this dialogue, about one particular party not wanting to indulge in that kind of dialogue with the other political parties. How do you look at this exchange?
Well, obviously, when PTI, after these elections, there was an expectation that there will be some political engagement between all the political parties to stabilize the system. But since PTI had a complaint that elections were stolen from them, mandate was stolen from them, so they are not ready to talk to other main stakeholders of the political system, namely PPP and PMLN and even MQM. Now they are left with the JUI of Mulana Fazal Rehman. They have tried to engage with them. Mulana Fazal Rehman is right now weighing his cards, his options very carefully. On the side, he is obviously creating a momentum of his own support base, but he is not yet ready to fully hand over that strength, that street power to PTI. Okay. PTI will like Mulana to sort of come on board fully, but Mulana is so far a bit reluctant.
You think he's open to having, of course, talks and generally?
Well, see, now it's a very interesting scenario. PTI has sort of the political alliance they have built up. They have handed over the leadership to Mahmood Khan Achakzai. Now Mahmood Khan Achakzai, despite his nationalistic, sub-nationalistic rhetoric and all those things, has always been part of the system. He and his family has enjoyed perks of a power, and Mahmood Khan Achakzai is someone who understands parliamentary politics and understands the limitations within the system, and understands how important it is to engage with other political parties as well. While PTI insists that it will not engage with main political parties, fringe political parties, yes, because those fringe political parties do not threaten PTI's electoral field. PTI's electoral field is threatened by MQM, PPP and PMLN. But interestingly, in KP, Mulana Fazal Rehman's complaint, interestingly, is all about KP, because there he has lost the election pretty badly. He has done decently in Balochistan. He has almost got his share in Balochistan. His only grouse is that he may have been a contender for the Chief Minister's office. But in Balochistan, there is always a coalition government. If he had wanted to be part of that coalition government, I am sure that PPP and PMLN would have accommodated him. But again, because he is a man who understands possibilities, he has cooperated with PPP in Balochistan to get just a few seats for the Senate. and all that. So, it's very interesting that his main complaint actually is in KP, where he is to contest against KP PTI. So, it's a very
it's like a difficult situation.
Difficult situation for him. That is why he is not coming out completely openly.
Yet he feels he might need this support.
Yeah.
I'm going to include, before I go to Ali, I'm going to go to Senator Zarqa. Ji, Senator Zarqa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mahrukh.
Senator Zarqa, there is generally, you know, this confusion, would you agree, as far as your political party is concerned? You know, overall, the kind of statements that are coming from your second-tier leadership at this time present, is it true that, you know, there's a little, there seems to be a lack of clarity there, you know, with regard to dialogue, with regard to alliances also?
Thank you very much. I think it would be fair to say that all sorts of tactics have been tried to break PTI, and amongst those tactics is the one of planting people, is the one of giving multiple narratives through and pitting one person against another. I mean, the media is, you know, is literally setting up fights between the people in PTI, and however hard they may try, they have not been able to succeed. And PTI came out as the single largest party in the February 8th elections. You know, the Form 45 and Form 47 fiasco turned our numbers from 200 in the National Assembly down to 91, 93. But in spite of all that, you see the support for people.
Then I'm going to interject here. So you're saying that this confusion or these statements that don't necessarily align with each other is just something that the media is saying. They're not, you know, there's no confusion within the party. There's no difference of opinion within your party.
No, what I said, I also mentioned plants. And I also there is disinformation. The media has a major role, I would say, in all of this, because it has a task to malign PTI, to bring PTI, and to make one leader pit against the other one. Now let me give you another possible story. I mean, another possible narrative, which is that prior to 2021, the PTI and the other major force in this country, which is the armed forces, the establishment, were on the same page. Pakistan was having development in spite of COVID with a GDP of 6%. The tables were overturned, and where have we landed Pakistan? The people of Pakistan are not happy. The PTI is in jail, whatever, forget that. The armed forces are not comfortable, the establishment is not comfortable, and you have brought Pakistan down to an economic meltdown. You can't get your economy up. It's not, you can't.
Is it about, you're saying that, you know, as far as your confusion at this time, let me include Ali in this also, I'll come back to you. Ali, can you hear me? Ali, I hope you're hearing what Senator Zarqa is saying. She's saying, one, that it is only the media that is responsible for giving fuel, adding fuel to the kind of statements that are coming forward from their different leaders who are on the scene at this time. And two, that the country is, you know, where it is because PTI is not, no longer governing it. I would like your comments on this.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Wazuentu mantusha, watuzillu mantusha. I would like to point out something interesting which Dr. Zarqa just said, which I'm not sure if you missed out. She's not only saying that the media is creating problems and trying to pitch the leadership of PTI against each other, but she also used a word saying there are plants, insinuating that certain leaders have been actually planted in the PTI to create these problems. Now, if that is the case, then I think the media should not be blamed. I think then it's time for them to get their house in order. You see, we have been observing that the PTI, we talk about having a dialogue with PTI. But when you talk about having a dialogue with PTI, but which PTI? There is one person who's saying that we are willing to sit with all stakeholders, which is the chairman, Barrister Gohar. Then you have Sher Afzal Marwat, who keeps saying anytime anything good is happening in Pakistan, he say the Saudis are coming for the investment. He says, gee, Saudi was part of the conspiracy. Look at the timing. He is acting anti-state, and he's a very senior leader of PTI. He has not been disowned. His statements get disowned, but he's not being sidelined. So first of all, then you have their Chief Minister KP Gandapur, who says, we'll attack Islamabad, we'll take over Islamabad, we are coming, we'll protest, etc., etc. So then you have these other people like Shibli Faraz who are saying, no, these people are just giving statements in their own capacity. This is not our perspective. We want to know, before PTI can sit with any of the other stakeholders, any other political parties, or then you have this other chap who said, okay, we'll only sit with establishment and we are not interested in these other people, we're not willing to. So what we want to know is, before we sit with PTI, I think PTI should sit amongst themselves and decide what is their narrative, what is it exactly that they want, because I feel they're very confused right now, right? And if they are actually going so far as saying that there are plants in the PTI, then get rid of those plants. First of all, who has planted them? Clarify this. And secondly, if you know who the plants are, then get rid of those plants and get good people on board and work accordingly. Coming to your second.
Ali, okay, please go on. I'll let you finish before I go.
Yeah. So, the economy, Dr. Zarqa said that the economy is not doing well. I think economy is doing much better. Look at the stock market. It's at the highest ever it has ever been in Pakistan's history. IMF is happening. IMF, despite their, despite PTI's tricks, or try to writing letters to the IMF, trying to stop from them giving us, money, which could have resulted in us defaulting as a country. We got through all that. Now IMF, 1.5 billion, the last tranche is coming. We're going into a fresh program. Things are looking stable. Foreign investment is now coming. Saudis are coming. Iran, the president came. You met. We're having internationally, we're getting our house in order. And at a time like this, Mulana Fazal Rehman wants to come, and then your KP Gandapur CM wants to come attack Islamabad. Now, my question is, you used to say PDM, we don't want to sit with people from PDM. Now PDM, the person who was the Sarbara of PDM, who was the patron-in-chief of PDM, Maulana Fazul Rehman, with him you're sitting and you're willing to work against Pakistan and work against the government, but you don't want to sit with us.
So in that sense, when we go back to 2016, can we draw a parallel? Because, whenever there's stability, there's invariably talk of their dharnas, there's talk of, more violence. Well, not, but this kind of protesting, this kind of coming out on streets, which is not necessarily a great play for stability.
Chinese premier was coming. He cancelled his trip because of the dharnas in 2016. I'm not the sort who wants to label anybody as a foreign agent or anything, but if you connect the dots, it is a big question mark that what are they trying to achieve? Whenever the country, look, we are offering them. Zardari Saab in his joint session when he gave his speech, he said we all need to come together. He invited PTI to come and talk. Shahbaz Sharif is inviting PTI to come and talk. Gandapur.
That's a question. Fair enough. Let me come back to you. Aniq Saab, you heard what Senator Zarqa is saying and what Ali Rashid Saab is also saying. There is one of course, according to Senator Zarqa, it's about the media, but can it be minimized too about the media?
I didn't get that point, that what is media to blame for.
Well,
I didn't get that point, because again, if they are saying that it's the media which is pitting their leadership, against some institutions, if she is trying to allude to that, I'll like to mention today's article in the Independent. So I mean, that article clearly points out by their own leader pointing fingers at heads of different institutions. So I don't think it's the media's fault that they have pitted themselves against certain institutions and rest of the political forces. This is their basic narrative, that they are above all other stakeholders. They are different from other stakeholders, and they should be treated with some exceptionalism in this system. But the problem is that system does not like exceptionalism. System will respond if you try to attack the system. This happens all over the world. It happens in US. We know what happened after Joe Biden's victory, how the hardcore Republicans tried to react and how the state reacted. So, and Trump has still not completely sort of have been exonerated from different cases. He is also facing cases. So systems will react. Systems will react when you attack them. So this question that it's only a media is doing, that is not correct.
I think she also, let her clarify, of course, but I think she also meant that the media is pitting their leaders against each other, and actually there's no discord.
That again is media of course sniffs wherever there is conflict, and if there is a conflict between different leaders, between the parties, if they are giving different statements.
Whether it's any party.
PTI is not an exception. All political parties.
We've seen recently
we have seen within PMLN, sometimes within PPP, within PMLN, there are different views. But in case of PTI, I understand their challenge, and their challenge is that their leader is not available to resolve all these issues, and there was never a second-tier leadership in the party which could keep the party
afloat.
And
this is relatively, some of these leaders are relatively new. I think Dr. Zarqa would agree with that also.
Of course, like the leading people right now who are face of the party, they are quite new at this game. They do not really have been in this game for long. So they do not understand that one word, one sentence can become a headline very quickly. So they have to train themselves to understand that these conflicting signals create a confusion within the constituency and within the stakeholders as well. If you want to engage with the stakeholders, then you have to come up with a clear strategy and plan. You cannot take one step forward and two steps back every time there is a pressure by social media activists or the media. You have to be very clear about your own strategy for engagement.
Dr. Zarqa, is it also the fact that, of course, you know, you and I think the party largely, the PTI as a political party, correct me if I'm wrong, believes that their support base is about, you know, it's largely based on a confrontational style of politics. Do you think that perhaps your strategy, if you agreed to talks, would, you know, tamper that support base? Is that one of the reasons why it's this one step forward and two steps back approach?
Not at all, Mahrukh. That is not at all the narrative of PTI. PTI has always asked for to go against corruption, to go against the money laundering that exists in this country, the mafia-like elite in this country. I would like to draw attention to the very interesting address by the current and, of course, the last premier of this country as well, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, who is the end-all, be-all. I could not understand. He spoke at the World Economic Forum in Saudi Arabia. And instead of inviting people and talking about what a positive picture Pakistan can paint, he talked about all the negatives. And this is something that Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, Mr. Ehsan Iqbal, Mr. Ishaq Dar have been doing for the last 3 years. And in their talking about Pakistan being on a ventilator, these were the last words. This time he's telling the whole world at the World Economic Forum that Pakistan is at its, it is in the pit, there's no future, we are up to our ear in debt. I mean, is that how you attract investment to a country?
But do you have, I mean, are you taking issue with the way that the Prime Minister this time took the image of Pakistan, or is it about, you know, as far as pointing out, according to the Prime Minister, about telling the situation as it is, pointing out what the good is in our country and trying to attract the investment there, which seemed to be the target at the time. But my question today is, you know,
he never did that. He never tried.
Dr. Zarqa, I want to stay on topic. Let me try to bring you back on it. I mean, as far as these planted people that you spoke about, are these people within the PTI? Who has planted them? As you said earlier on during the first question, is it to sow discord in the party itself? What is this take on having these people who have differing point of views, who are not necessarily getting along with each other, as it seems from the different statements that are coming out?
My dear, all political parties have their differences. Right now, Mr. Nawaz Sharif and Mr. Shahbaz Sharif are having issues to the extent that Mr. Nawaz Sharif had to get Mr. Ishaq Dar appointed as the Deputy Prime Minister while he was in China, and then the other pressure came from Saudi Arabia. What is going on? This is how it is in every party. If you talk
so fair enough. You're saying that, like all political parties, there is perhaps, not necessarily, there's a difference of opinion between the political parties, your political party. But as far as talks are concerned, are you on the same page with regard to talks, or there's a difference of opinion on talks? Let's try to stay on topic.
Not at all. We are on this. We want that there should be talks, but the talks need to take place from a position of fairness. You cannot pick a party, take away its symbol, take away the seat, take away its senators from KP, bring up a Senate which is complete, force Senate going to election. It's the 96. You're totally ignoring and taking away the rights of one province. So the kind of unconstitutional actions that are going on, these are not favoring the federation. They are not favoring the...
Zarqa, aren't talks a part of the constitutional process? It would stabilize the situation. It would, make it more conducive to a stable environment for better investment, better economy, which is what your party, you are saying, also want. You want there to be betterment overall. As for, of course, the IMF agreements also coming up. With regard to all of that, talks are something. Do you think that, there's necessarily agreement to talk to political parties? Let me include Ali in this. Ali, do you think it's only about the establishment as far as the PTI is concerned, or do you think, as far as the political parties, PPP and PMLN is concerned, the main political parties, there's still a refusal there?
Zarqa is not being a bit honest. There are differences of opinion within PTI. I am saying it in a very friendly manner that I feel. I'm not trying to, make them look bad, or I'm not trying to put them down. I'm saying I genuinely think that the leadership of PTI needs to sit together, and they need to come, and for the sake of Pakistan, because we also want that. We really want to talk to them. We really want to resolve the issues, their reservations. We want to talk it out. We've had confrontation for far too long. And we've all realized that the only way to get Pakistan out of these crises is by sitting together. And if you ask me, what is the one biggest cause in Pakistan for being in the kind of trouble we are right now. It's political uncertainty. Investors are not confident. People don't know what will happen tomorrow. People keep asking how long will this government be for. People are scared when these parties like PTI and Fazlur Rahman start saying we'll come out and protest, etc., etc. Say people are really sick and tired of confrontation. They don't want to be part of the problem anymore. They want to be part of the solution. So we more than anybody else want things there should be smooth sailing for the sake of Pakistan. The IMF deal is coming through. Things are getting back on track. Inflation has slightly, it's not ideal, but has slightly come down. And
this has to be this kind of political maturity is needed across the board in all the political parties, and who have to acknowledge that real politics will be played in the parliament, where they can talk to each other, they can actually make a difference rather than coming on the streets, which is also the norm with some political parties.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. It needs to be done. We should sit on a table. We need to discuss. First, PTI should know what they want. As I said earlier, Shahriar Afridi says, we want the DGISI, we want the Chief of Army Staff. We want to talk to them, not the political parties. Then Barrister Gohar says, no, we are disowning his statement and this is not what we want. Then Gandapur says, we'll attack Islamabad, right? And then we have different people from PTI and senior leadership. Not even some riffraffs or not even some mid-tier people from PTI or some junior workers. These are like, the main movers and shakers of PTI.
Ali, I object to riffraffs. I think, you meant somebody of a less caliber, probably political. But, right, let me...
I retract my word. Yeah. Somebody of a junior, I'm not saying a junior leader or some mid-tier political worker. These are senior leaders. These are people who are close to Imran Khan. These are people who really, when they say things, people listen. It's really concerning for us, And we've been so open. People's Party and PMLN have said, okay, whatever you want. We even said establishment. You keep talking about the establishment. Please go talk to them. If you can convince them to come in the middle and speak. You just heard a statement from the Chief of Army Staff that we know our constitutional limits. So, why drag them into it when they're not interested in coming? Why don't we just, it's just, as I said, let's be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Why cook up scenarios which we might not be able to achieve anything? So let's take baby steps. Let's sit together. Let's start talking. And once we have dialogue, I'm very hopeful that things will work out eventually, inshallah.
Aniq Sab, do you think, let's talk about what Ali is saying. He's saying that, this talk of establishment, we've also, like he said, had a statement from the Chief of Army Staff on very clear defining, the mandate, defining the purview of each institution. In this kind of a situation, do you think now things will change and there is a clarity for all political parties that perhaps they need to resolve this between themselves?
That is, I think, the fundamental question in Pakistan, that whether political forces themselves can resolve issues, those are issues of political nature and issues related to governance, economy, the whole gambit of issues. But the problem is that because of a certain setup or a mindset we have come to a stage where every political party which wants to come into power thinks that there is only one way to achieve it, and that is to engage with the establishment. I am not giving a clean check to establishment here. They also have played a role in the past, which obviously we all know. But here again, the question is that if you continue to insist that we will only engage with the establishment right now, and that was again, if I go back to 2022, immediately after the no confidence motion, the position taken by PTI again was that we have lost power, not because we have lost votes in the assembly. We have lost power because Mr. So-and-so had turned again against us. And we want Mr. So-and-so to come back again and support us so that we can throw this government out. So, if that is the whole narrative, and that if the current narrative is also continuation of that narrative, then I am afraid that they are not moving forward. They are stuck in a position, and that position is not going to help them.
Dr. Zarqa, do you think that is the narrative the same? Is it not about, you know, coming to some sort of agreement, you know, working relationship with the people who are in parliament? Because you've also seen, you know, PTI has seen a time when they were not in the parliament, and I think they've learnt that perhaps, you know, they have a better say in the system when they have a presence in the parliament. Do you think that that kind of realization will also permeate and transcend into talks, and the fact that they have to be with other political parties?
Thank you, Mahrukh. Of course, political parties have to parley, have to discuss. But in the current situation, it is very difficult. When you take away the right of the person who's got the mandate, you have taken the mandate away in a very unfair manner. And it's not me who's saying that, the whole world is saying that. Everyone from Chuck Schumer in the US to human rights organizations all over the world are talking about it. So you need to think about it. Pakistan...
Mandate that you do have, you are, you know, the largest party in opposition at this time. You do have a mandate, you do have a say in the parliament. With that kind of, you know, the kind of seats that you have, the kind of say that you have, your party can still make a difference. If they do want to, you know, have talks, if they do want to come to some kind of, you know, criticizing the opposition where it merits that, staying and doing it from the parliament. So you have that power as the opposition. Isn't that true?
Madam, when a government is in power, the government has to perform. The government today has to perform. It does not have to sit at our with a begging bowl to us who are in the opposition to perform. We are there. Our job is to make sure that we do government.
I'm not saying that you are responsible for performing. I'm saying you are responsible for your role as a valuable critical opposition. You know, the kind of critique which is conducive to the political climate. That is your mandate as the opposition, where you feel that the government can do better. You know, productive criticism, that is what the opposition's role is and traditionally has been in parliamentary democracies all over the world.
Madam, if you allow me to speak next time, if you want me to come on your show, please let me speak. You have interrupted me.
I'm going to clarify this. I'm letting everyone speak and have their turn. Please, you know, I'm giving you as much time as all the other guests. Please continue. So
if you don't really have to worry about the opposition. We are doing our role in the opposition and we will continue to do it. Oh, why can't the government perform? It's been 3 years. They keep having the same prime minister, first unelected, then falsely elected, not even elected, you know. And why can't they perform? Because they keep taking the begging bowl. The focus is not on performance. The focus is on getting money from the IMF. And last time, the IMF tranche that came, 42% of it went to the MNAs from the government, from the treasury benches. 42%. The entire focus is on getting dollars to line your own pocket. None of it reaches the poor man, the 250 million people of this country who now have to pay through their nose for electricity.
Your party also went to the IMF. There seems to be little option. All stakeholders agree, all political parties largely agree. There is little option except going to the IMF, as your party also did the same. We have limited options at this time. Have you given a shadow? Has the PTI ever, I think Ali would be the right person to ask this, and Aniq Sab, has the PTI ever given conducive practical alternatives as the opposition to the government? Now that we are going to be be looking at the IMF, again, the IMF review, the IMF conditionalities. Has the PTI given a shadow critique, a shadow, or a kind of an alternative? Has it presented that in the parliament? Does it plan to do so as the opposition?
In fact, I feel most of the trouble which Pakistan got in during PTI's regime was because Mr. Khan was in denial. He used to say that I'll commit suicide, but I will not go to IMF. And the delay in going to IMF created all sorts of problems. Then before leaving, he created landmines for the next government which is coming, which was a disservice to the country. How he backtracked to the promises he had made to IMF with the fuel prices and the fuel levy. After that, and he used to say, I'm not going to go to the IMF, I'd rather kill myself, I'll commit suicide if I go to IMF. And then yet he went to the IMF. Now it's very rich coming from a PTI senator saying that, why are you going to the IMF? And I mean, because it's the need of the hour. We were on the brink of, bankruptcy when the country was given to the to PPDM, and we needed to do a lot of damage control at that time. And currently also we are doing much better than the 4 years which PTI had performed. We were internationally isolated. Nobody wanted to meet us. Nobody was happy with us. IMF was not, and the audacity, PTI is writing letters to the IMF that don't give Pakistan money. Who are you? Is this being enemies with any political party, or are you being enemies with the country? If they don't give us money, we'll default. Is that what you want? I mean, I don't understand, what their objective is, or what their narrative is, or what kind of politics they're doing. But, when they turn around and say, okay, this government is not doing anything, stock market, it's the highest ever it has been. It had crashed when, PTI's government was there. Inflation is now coming down. So things are getting back on track. So give us, Rome wasn't built in a day. Give us 4 years like you guys had. Then you'll see.
Aniq sir, do you think there's, what Dr. Zarqa said, I think Ali's also answered it, but she's saying the 4 years, the government at this time after the elections is, different. In your opinion, is it the road map that is continuing at this time? The road to economic, according to Ali, he's saying this was damage control earlier on. And now things seem to be going in the right direction.
It surely looks like that there is the crisis management period is over. Now we are entering into a stabilization period. Once we are through the stabilization period, which I expect to be 6 to 7 months, then we can look at growth. But again, whether it is PTI or whether past governments or the current governments, we always have had these boom and bust cycles. What we need to understand is that the moment our economy starts to grow, we have a problem of consumption and import-led consumption. This has happened in the past also, and happened with PTI also. Currently, we are trying to stabilize that position, that our current account deficit remains under control, and that is why now your dollar rupee parity is stable. Inflation has started to come down. So all these factors will help us grow in the longer run. But again, we will have to manage very carefully how we let our consumption habits into a more structured manner. And how do we now invite investment? If we are able to invite investment, then we will be able to turn into an economy which also is able to export. We have not been able to increase our exports because we do not have enough surplus. We need to have enough surplus products to export.
So that is, and also stability is really
very important. Foreign investment is very important, but again, coming to the foreign investment is not all about money. It is also about security, and it's also about your relationship with other governments, with other countries. We have to work on multiple fronts to ensure that we do not go back to the same boom and bust cycle.
Dr. Zarqa, as far as Mulana Fazal Rehman is concerned, do you feel that, he's also, like Aniq Sahab here said, an opponent as far as KP is concerned, as far as your party is concerned? Do you think it's a bit of an oxymoron? Do you think there can be a future alliance with him as far as the PTI is concerned?
The issue with Mulana Fazal Rehman is that he had lost all mandate. He did not get his seat in the last election, in 2018. And this time, the only place where he could get a seat was Pishin. So now, Mulana Sahab has always been someone who sits with the government, whoever the government may be. But due to the loss of popularity that he has seen over the last 2 elections, he is now thinking of changing his narrative because he understands that the common man does not agree with what is going on in this country, and the common man has voted against status quo. So Mulana Sahab is trying to get back his popularity by going with the narrative, trying to choose an opposite narrative to his usual. Of course, he always does take the government in one province and may take the opposition benches in the other. So he's a very mature political player, and Mulana Fazal Rehman will no doubtedly do what is in his best interest, and we shall watch and see.
Okay, fair enough. Aniq Sahab, do you think it might be it's a future, there is room for a future alliance with Mulana Sahab?
Well, technically, if in terms of politics I look at things, I think it's always possible for opposing political forces to work together on a minimum agenda. It has happened in the past, and it can always.
It's quite possible.
It is always possible. After all, Imran Khan Sahab used to stand on a stage with Mulana Fazal Rehman, with Qazi Hussain Ahmed, with Hafiz Saeed, and all kind of stuff in early 2000s, of course. So, defense of Pakistan platform and all that.
And
that
friends,
kind of stuff.
Tomorrow's enemies.
So that is very much possible. But again, because again, I will have to point out there are very conflicting issues
within KP also.
Within KP also, because, for example, if they say that Mulana says that I am joining PTI, is PTI will PTI be comfortable not claiming that a certain seat in Peshawar was fairly won by JUIF?
So they'll have to
is that the case? Because that seat also is one of the seats I think PTI counts as its own. So there are a number of issues between them. They will have to come to a bare minimum agenda, and again PTI will have to be very clear about it, and should be ready to understand that Mulana Sahab is very quick to cut deals, and he will cut a deal at the first available moment.
Ali, do you see this, there perhaps more clarity? Do you see the opposition sitting with the government in the near future, or you think there's little hope of that?
Well, look, a little or more, I'm hopeful that they should, for the sake of the country. We are trying our level best to do that, but it totally depends on PTI and Mulana Fazal Rehman, what they want to do. I think it would be advisable and it would be nice if we all can sit together and iron out whatever issues we have for the sake of Pakistan. And I hope so.
Today with the Prime Minister, you expect there to be, there to be perhaps more role of the PPP in the near future?
Yes. Well, that is being a role as in, you mean in the federal government?
In the government, yes.
Well, that's being discussed. It's in discussion. I'm not sure what will happen in regard to that, but there is a possibility that might happen. For now, we haven't made up our mind or taken any decision as far as that is concerned, but it is possible.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for being with us. Ali Rashid, thank you for joining us. Senator Zarqa, thank you so much for your time. Aniq Zafar Saab, thank you for being with us. Overall, of course, all political parties have to play their role in the democratic process as far as governance is concerned, as far as opposition is concerned, and critique for the sake of critique, which has been a trend for a while in Pakistani politics, unfortunately, may not necessarily be the right way forward. Perhaps alternate proposals, perhaps a shadow budget, perhaps a conducive critical a conducive, productive critique by the opposition is perhaps a new trend that needs to come forward, like it does in all democracies. Perhaps Pakistan needs to turn, and we hope that it will turn that new chapter. Thank you so much for joining us today.